All right, let's see here. So we are live. So welcome back to Dapp University. So I'm watching my live stream software here because I think I've fixed this. We had a little issue with the stream yesterday, but I think we're good. So welcome back to Dapp University. Today we got a lot to talk about in our live stream. So today's gonna be a little bit different from some of the streams that we normally do. All right, I'm actually gonna start off our stream today by asking a question, actually a few questions that I got from you all who are trying to break into the blockchain industry. Okay, we're gonna look at a lot of the other things in our live stream today, but we're going to talk about an actually 90-day plan to break in the industry. And I'm going to answer this as somebody who has asked me this question directly. And I promised them that I would talk about this in the live stream today. I want to share it with you all because I think it's going to be really helpful for a lot of people who try to do the same thing. We're going to look at a lot of other updates that have happened in this space since our live stream yesterday. Again, we do these live streams Monday through Friday. Just subscribe, turn on notifications. You're going to find out about those whenever we go live. We're going to look at some of the crypto markets, answer some of your questions from the live chat replay here, and a whole lot more. So if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn how to master blockchain step by step, start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. So got people jumping in the chat here. Let me know if you can hear my live stream okay, if this is better than what it was yesterday, by the way. I've tried to work on my connection issue that I had. I don't know where it came from, but I think I fixed it. So let me know down in the live chat below if you can hear me okay and see me okay. No glitches, no lag or anything like that. So we got Culture Eyes, Technically, David Stone, Norman, Magellan, Faran, hope I'm saying that right. Let's see. Tebow, hope I'm saying that right. Recharge yourself. Welcome. All right, so let's jump into this. Let's talk about this 90-day plan to break into the blockchain industry. And this is actually coming from somebody who reached out to me and was like, hey, I got this question. There's a bunch of details about, my background and what I'm trying to do. And I was like, hey, instead of trying to just give you a quick 2-sentence answer over a message, why don't I actually talk about this on my live stream tomorrow, which I got this question yesterday, because a lot of people are going to be in the same place as you or in a similar place and need the exact same advice, okay? So let me just pull up the question here. I'm going to anonymize it completely because I didn't ask this person's permission to share all their information. But I'm gonna read it. I won't share it on screen. But you'll kind of get the idea, and I think this is going to be really beneficial for other people who are in a really similar spot. So it says, hey there, I recently signed up for Dapp University. I love your teaching style. I actually just got hired as a blockchain developer. So in fact, I'm choosing between 2 blockchain jobs. However, even though I do have a Master of Arts and a professional certificate from somewhere, I'm not going to say the name, in coding, they simply do not teach you blockchain in school, okay? So the technology is too new and changing, and a lot of universities have a bias against it. I think it's mostly for scamming. So that being said, I have these 2 blockchain jobs to pick between, and since I'm self-taught, I feel really uneasy about what I'm getting myself into. So I was wondering if you had any words of encouragement for imposter syndrome. Okay, this is a big one. Lots of people deal with imposter syndrome. We'll clarify what that is in a minute. So I've also learned so much from your teaching styles. Wondering if you ever do private tutoring, etc., etc. Okay. So there's more to this question, but that's the gist. Okay, and then it's asking for my feedback on this type of thing. So. Yeah, we'll definitely start off with the whole idea of dealing with imposter syndrome and are you ready to get your first blockchain job? So I got that question, and then I also got this question, or I saw this on my Twitter yesterday, and I had another question about this. A lot of similar type of stuff, come up. Then I want to kind of roll all these into the same answer here. Okay, and hopefully share this with you all. So let's just see if this actually works. So I retweeted to my Twitter yesterday. Somebody said, please help me overcome my terror at applying for dev jobs. Please. So I don't know if this person is specifically this for blockchain, but it came up in my feed and it's related to blockchain for sure. And my response was really just do it. That's the only way. So let's get back to this question, all right? And both of these questions have a lot of similar stuff between them. I got another question, same type of thing. It's basically the whole idea here, and this is sort of the blanket advice for everybody who's in a similar place. You have been coding, you've been doing coding tutorials, and you're trying to figure out where do I need to, like when am I ready to start applying for jobs? How do I overcome the fear of applying for jobs? And how do I actually get that together? Okay. And so for somebody who has done that entire thing, they've basically learned the basic skills and they're ready to start applying for jobs. I'm going to tell you where that starting line is. And whenever you start that, you can put together a 90-day plan for yourself to actually, land a blockchain job. At least that's a goal that you should aim for, okay? So let's talk about what the starting line is for there. And I'm going to circle back to this question. You're going to see why it's important in a second. This person's like, hey, how do I pick between, how do I overcome imposter syndrome? How do I figure out which job is the best? Okay. And let's talk about that fear. So a couple things about the fear of applying for jobs and how do you overcome this? All right. So the first of this is going to be a little bit outside of just, programming and, how humans work, how the mind works, how your body works, all this type of stuff. The first thing about it is you have to think about what fear is in the first place, all right? And that your brain is designed to protect you. And think about how many bad things you ever worried about in your entire life that never happened, okay? And that most of the things that your brain is doing is trying to protect you from harm, and most of that harm never actually comes to you, okay? So you have to first think about the fear of applying for jobs, what's going to happen? Are you really going to get hurt? Is something bad really going to happen to you if you get rejected from this job? So that there's some soul searching to do in that. I'm not going to I'm going to stay on that all day because I want to talk about something else that can actually help that. All right. There's some practical anxiety kind of stuff to work through, but I also find that just having programmers are pretty logical people. And so sometimes some logic of knowing certain things can help mitigate some of those fears, which is knowing exactly when you're ready. All right. And this is I'm telling you, whenever you have crossed this particular threshold, you're ready and you don't have to sit here and question over and over and over in your mind, am I ready? I'm just an imposter. Nobody's going to hire me. And the thumbnail of this video is blockchain demand is insane. And that's another part of this, which is the demand is so big for blockchain that a little bit of knowledge goes a really long way. Don't just take my word for this. I've seen lots of people get highly paid blockchain jobs with hardly any coding experience because the demand is so insane. People are really hard to hire blockchain developers. So let me show you where that starting line is to start looking for jobs. And once you know that you're in this spot, you're ready, and you have sort of a 90-day plan put together for yourself. So the starting line is this. So once you have been doing coding tutorials, all right, and then you have started to create something for yourself completely unguided, so nobody's holding your hand throughout the entire process, and then you have put it out there online to where somebody else can use it, and you've open sourced the code to where other people can look at the code that you actually wrote, and then you've put that together into a portfolio, that's when you're ready to start applying for jobs, okay? And that's the starting line for the 90-day plan to start looking for a blockchain developer job, okay? And so, that's step one. And so you have to know that you have crossed that line before you let all this other fear sort of take over you. And if you know that you have that, all right, that's sort of a logical point in your mind that you can lean against. I know, humans are made up of many different things. Our fear is often irrational, all right, but sometimes having this rational knowledge of yes, this thing over here, I can trust that I'm ready once I've done this, all right? So that's the first thing. That's the first thing of overcoming imposter syndrome. So another thing about overcoming imposter syndrome is when you're starting, nobody's expecting you to be an expert, okay? And you should not go into your interviews trying to pretend that you're an expert. They're going to know pretty fast if you're not, okay? Now, it's okay to be self-confident in what you do know, because on the other side of things, that's another way to combat imposter syndrome is hey, if you can do all that stuff, you actually do know how to do some stuff with blockchain, and that is useful to somebody else, and that's what they're paying you for. The demand is so high. You have to send a leverage here. They need people. They're having a hard time finding people. And even if you can just do enough and they can train you, that's a really good place to start. And that's going to make the person that's trying to hire you really happy. Okay. So that's the other side of, imposter syndrome. So I'm going to circle back to this person's question who originally sent this over to me to answer it very succinctly. So basically, if you've done all this stuff, if you have an MA and a professional certificate from this place that I'm not going to name because I want to anonymize the email, and you've already got some offers or two from blockchain jobs, people that's enough validation to where you don't need, the imposter syndrome at that point is completely irrational. All right. And now, no, I'm not necessarily giving you the best practical tips on how to overcome imposter syndrome, but part of it is me just telling you, me validating that I've been there. Trust me, I understand that. If you checked all those boxes, there's nothing rational about your imposter syndrome at that point. If you don't know how to do blockchain and nobody's offering you a job, that may be more valid, but this is definitely not the case. So for everybody else who's kind of jumping back into this, starting line, know that that's the starting line. You need all that stuff I just talked about. You need a project, you need a portfolio, you need a resume, all that type of stuff. And no, you don't need a bunch of prior coding experience. You just need to prove to people what you can do before you start that 90-day journey of finding your job. Okay, so now once you've done that, there's two different approaches, basically, all right? So one is to go apply for jobs directly, and the other way is to kind of apply for jobs indirectly, all right? So the first way is what most people are going to do is they're going to just send their resume out to a bunch of places and just try to, beat down the front door and tell just apply for a bunch of jobs and try to get one. So if you're going to go down that route, you definitely need all that stuff I talked about at the beginning. Now, here's the honest truth. You don't necessarily even need all that stuff, but what I'm saying is if you have all that stuff, that's sort of the logical check in your brain that, yes, I've done everything that I'm supposed to do, and it leaves nothing to chance in that regard. There's still chance, but you're leaving way less to chance if you've got all that stuff, okay? So then it's time to start applying. So most people are going to go the route of just applying for jobs on job posting websites, emailing, all that type of stuff. That's totally great. That's totally fine. If you're going to do that, you need to apply for as many places as possible. Some people are I applied to 2 places and I didn't hear back. You got to do more than that. You might get lucky. Okay. You might get lucky in the first place called you back for an interview, and then you just land the job and it's amazing. All right. So that's great if that happens. Like I said, you have to think about this stuff in terms of likelihood and probabilities. You might get lucky with all this. You may just be I'm just going to go learn blockchain. I'm going to go take a coding tutorial. And I'm just going to apply for a job, and you land the first one. It totally can happen. But it's not super likely. And I'm talking about stuff that's going to increase the likelihood that you're going to land that. So if you're going to apply to jobs, apply to as many places as possible. You need to get that number probably north of 20 to get started, okay? If you think about conversion rates, 1 in 20 will be a 5% conversion rate. If you go to 100 and it's 1 in 100, that's a 1% conversion rate, all right? So if you're up in those numbers, you're going to increase the likelihood that somebody's going to take a chance on you as a beginner. Because, the truth is not everybody is hiring brand new blockchain developers, but there are still lots of people who are doing it, okay? That's the important thing to understand. And also it doesn't have to just be for blockchain developer jobs. I've had people go through the trainings who are hey, I learned Solidity and it gave me this massive advantage, at getting a business development job because people need people in the space who really understand the technology deeply, can communicate with engineers, understand smart contracts. That knowledge is super valuable no matter what you want to do, project management, business development, marketing. People in crypto need people who understand crypto, and if you have a technical understanding, it's going to give you a massive leg up, especially if you combine that with other skills, okay? So, anyway, so if you're going to apply as many places as possible. Not everybody's going to take a chance on you. What happened, and here's the other place that most people get steered, and this is what I saw here in my tweet, which is somebody please overcome the fear of applying for jobs. So part of this is just every single interview you go into, just assume you're not going to get it, okay? Just assume that it's going to go horribly and they're going to completely reject you and you're not going to get the job. And if you do, it's way better. Part of the reason people get so afraid in the first place is because of the expectations that they have. If you're applying to as many places as possible, like you're expecting that most people are not going to hire you. Okay. And if you keep those expectations low, you don't know which one's going to work out. And so if every time that you send an application out or you get an interview, you should assume I'm not going to get the job, it takes the pressure way off. And there's so many places out there that like you just repeat this process over and over and over again. And the likelihood that you're actually going to land something and it's going to stick is going to be a lot higher. Okay. Especially if you keep those expectations low, you're patient, you're looking at that long-term time frame here. Because think about it, at the end of the day, what if you could land that, completely change your career, whatever you're doing now? Like, you probably don't like what you're doing now. A lot of people don't. Like, the statistics are that a lot of people don't like their jobs. Okay, blockchain is one of the most exciting fields to be in because it's new technology. It's rapidly advancing. You know, you can make a lot of money with it through just it's one of the highest paying skills in tech, but you can also do all this stuff on the side. So it's a pretty great place. You know, and yeah, there's all kinds of reasons to do that. So if you could do that and that was the reward, like part of the thing that makes, you know, hard work worth it is the reward, the light at that end of that tunnel. Okay. And so part of that's getting over the fear of the rejection of applying for that job is like, think about what the upside potential is, right? So if you go into everything assuming you're not going to get it, but then that one thing hits, you know what I mean? Like it could change your life. And that to me has always been a powerful motivator at overcoming fear. And truly at the end of the day, the only way to overcome fear of applying for jobs is just doing it. Okay. I think about this, like people are like door-to-door salesmen and stuff like that. Like part of the thing that reduces fear in you is gradual exposure. All right. So like if you're scared of something, the best way to overcome a fear, like you could just jump all in and like, you know, let's say you're scared of spiders, like somebody could take you and throw you into a vat of non-biting, non-poisonous spiders, but like you might have a panic attack and die. But if you're super scared of spiders, like probably the better way to do it is just like slowly get you more used to being around a spider. Like just be in the same room as a non-biting, non-poisonous spider. And then wait till that gets a little better. And then sit next to one, right, in a glass case. And then take it out of the glass case. And then sit it on your desk for 30 minutes. And then start petting its back with your finger. And then have it crawl on your hand. Like that's the better way. And then pretty soon, like you may never love spiders, but you're not going to be as horribly terrified of them. So it's the same kind of thing with, you know, developer job. It's like anything. That's how you overcome the fear of anything. It's just like gradually getting exposure to it and using it. So like you can think about that with applying for jobs is like the slow thing is just send an email. Like nobody's going to bite you if you send an email to apply for a job. You may not hear back, but if you expect that you're not going to hear back, then well, your expectations are met. And if they reply back, then hey, it's better than your expectations. And same type of thing, like you could just go to meetups. Now that the world is kind of opening back up, like you can just go to software development meetups if you can find one in your area and, you know, just talk up to people. Like you don't have to get the job, but part of it's just like selling yourself and telling people what you can do. And that kind of helps boost your confidence because you become slowly more competent in the thing that you're scared of. Which helps reduce the amount of fear that you have for the thing itself. It's like public speaking. Like most people are terrified of public speaking. It's one of their biggest fears. You know, there's all kinds of ways you can overcome the fear of public speaking, but part of it's just like doing it a lot. You know, it never goes away, but the fear doesn't control you like it does somebody who's like brand new and absolutely terrified of getting on a stage and having that attention on themselves. So, same type of thing for applying for jobs. Like the anxiety and the nerves are never going to go away, but the only way to get over it's just to do it. So I want to talk a little bit more about the other strategy that I alluded to a second ago for applying for your first job, which is basically like not about just applying to places, but kind of doing a sneakier way. So this looks like basically getting out there and getting exposure to people who aren't necessarily just like trying to... Like you're not just walking into your interview, you're on the offense, you're sort of on the defense. So, and it's more like in like where the job opportunities come to you. So that looks like getting into places where people would hire you, know about you, and then they ask you to work for them. So this is a longer, like kind of a little bit more challenging way, but it has potentially more upside, which is basically like getting out in public and like talking about what you're doing. Like if you build an app for your portfolio, build it in public, document it, share it, put it on Twitter, put it on LinkedIn, put it on all these places, and then like just talk about what you're doing. And that's probably going to generate inbound leads of people who want to hire you in blockchain. Trust me, especially if your email's on your public GitHub commits. People scrape that stuff all the time and send it to recruiters, and then recruiters email your email inbox and like, hey, we got a senior Solidity developer job who's somebody who needs 12 years of Solidity experience, because most time recruiters are absolutely clueless and don't know what the industry is actually like, but they know that you can write the code, right? And so sometimes you just kind of get lucky and you walk in a situation where you can get a job that way. All right, so that's another way of landing that first job as well. It's a little bit different from just like spraying and praying your resume to a bunch of different places. Somebody says, you'd be surprised what happens when directly reaching out to leadership. Try scheduling introductory calls and meetings. There's a high chance you'll stumble into opportunity to get to know them. Yeah, it's a good point. So cold emailing is definitely one way to do it. Cold email can be challenging. It just depends on how busy the person is and how much email they get. You got to find a way to really get their attention. If you're going to cold email somebody, like keep it short. Keep it to the point and like try to add some sort of value. Like if somebody opens an email that's like, looks like you just copied and pasted like lorem ipsum text with like 20 paragraphs, they're just going to like click the next email. So if you're going to cold email somebody, like keep it short, keep it simple. Just look up cold emailing strategies online and hopefully that can give you some ideas. Somebody said add value in the cold email. Yeah. Somebody says, how should you split your time between doing projects and learning theories so that you understand what you are writing? That's a good question. So I'm a little bit, okay, I have some pretty different views than a lot of people on this type of thing, which is, to me, like, I don't know. I have a hard way of articulating this because it's something I kind of intuitively understand. But a lot of people divorce theory from practice, okay? And they divorce theory from practice in the way that they get the order wrong, of where they say you should learn theory before you learn practice. Well, most of the time that doesn't work, like because you don't understand why you're learning the theory in the first place, okay? And if you're going to divorce theory from practice, the best time to do it is to like put the theory after the practice, which is the opposite of what most people do, okay? Honestly, I think theory and practice should always be learned, almost always learned at the same time. Like, I don't know where this idea comes from, like the divorcing theory and practice. Like, I think it's a really old thing you see in academia all the time. I'm not a scholar by any grand stretch of the imagination, but it seems to be kind of a Western thing that dates back to many, many years ago, classical antiquity, kind of changing, got the world of ideas versus the physical. I don't want to step too far out my lane on that one. If anybody knows like where this came from, I want to know. That's why I'm talking about this, because I see it all the time, and I'm like, life just doesn't really work this way. So if you're a philosopher, you know where this idea comes from, let me know in the comment section below. But anyways, same thing with coding, like, because at the end of the day, like, theory is a skill in of itself, and it's not a super useful skill unless you're a practitioner. This is one of the reasons I don't like academia very much. Is you have a lot of people who are like super excited about their theoretical skills, but like life doesn't really model a mental model. Like life is life. Life is complicated. Models are approximations, and others all models are all models are wrong, but some are useful. Totally get that. But at the end of the day, what's more useful? Hard technical skills, especially when you're talking about what you're paid to do. What do I think about developing on other Web3 platforms like Polygon or Hive blockchain? What language do you recommend to start learning to code for those other blockchains that are on low fees? So the good news is if you learn Solidity, you can put it on like a dozen plus blockchains. That's one of the reasons I teach Solidity in the first place is, I mean, I'm super bullish on the Ethereum space long term for sure. But I mean, you got all these chains that just like forked the EVM and changed some settings and then they use Solidity. So, you know, you can put if you know Solidity, you can write programs for Polygon. You can write for Binance Smart Chain, write for Phantom, write for Avalanche, you can write for all this stuff. So you get a lot of mileage out of that. I mean, you can go try to learn Rust and program stuff for Solana, but if you're a beginner, good luck learning Rust. That's what I would say. I mean, you could do it. It's just going to be hard. Like Rust is a much more low-level language. You got some more sophisticated prerequisites for getting into Rust. Somebody says, theory can hinder practical development, like diving into how tech works when learning how to use the API SDK is a big skill. Yeah, totally. So, yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, I see this all the time. It's not just a programming thing. Like, people love to overthink, and developers love to overthink, and that's why I want to talk about this so much. Like, people who are generally thinkers like to think before they just do stuff because it's comfortable. Like, getting into an area where you don't understand something and you're fumbling around, you feel like an idiot, but oftentimes, like, there's no growth outside your comfort zone. And so the way to like get better is to become a beginner, bumble around like an idiot where you feel like you don't know what you're doing until you can start to walk. You know what I mean? It's like, it's super uncomfortable, especially for people who are, you know, maybe excel at thinking about things, but like skills are a totally different thing. Theory versus practice. Everybody learns to drive before they learn, if ever, how an internal combustion engine works. Just go for it. Yeah, totally. You don't have to know how the car works in order to press the gas pedal. Somebody says, people learn differently. What's worked for me is I have theory and practice go hand in hand. So as you're learning a new concept, attempt to really understand it and how something works. That's exactly what I'm saying, is like putting theory and practice together primarily. And sometimes sometimes it can help to go think about how things work in abstract, okay? But that's usually better after you've had exposure to doing the thing itself. All right, so let's I want to take a quick peek at what's going on with crypto markets, because a lot of people are asking me about this. Let's just pull it up. I'm mostly going to check on what's going on with Bitcoin price, because lots of people are seeing that correction that we saw yesterday, and we are now down below our bull market support band. So on the weekly time frame, all right, so basically we have seen a correction here. Let's wait and see what happens by the end of the week. Okay, I know lots of people are wanting Bitcoin to get above this bull market support band. We need to get above, $44,500, something like that, maybe 44,000. If we get above 45,000, that's where it's a little more confident, and just closing above that before people get too excited. I think we're in this really kind of like choppy territory where it's always hard to know exactly what's going to happen next in crypto, right? But it's even more muddled right now because we have all these indicators people watch all the time: bull market support band, 200-day moving average, 50-day moving average. Everybody has all these deterministic views that think like, okay, we got to be above this, we got to be above that. A week ago, we were sitting here saying we need to be above the 200-day moving average. We got a rejection off of it, okay? And then now we broke down below this bull market support band. Now everybody's like, oh, we got to get above that before we get too excited. But, it still could happen that we don't close this week above this, and then we try again, and then it just happens. So What I think was one of the biggest causes for some of this stuff. So, I mean, yesterday we did have, let's just see here. Let me pull it up. Yesterday we did have, news come out from the Fed that I think was a huge factor here. So basically, Federal Reserve, Central Bank of the United States, moving to shrink the balance sheet by $95 billion per month. Okay, so Federal Reserve officials are planning on reducing the central bank's trillions of dollars in bond holdings by around $95 billion a month. So that's from the minutes that came out yesterday. Central bankers also plan to allow some of their government-backed holdings to expire, helping to pare down the Fed's balance sheet, which currently stands at $9 trillion. That's a lot of money. A limit of $60 billion in treasuries and $35 billion in mortgage-backed securities would be rolled off, officials generally agreed. Anyways, basically, we're also looking at, potentially more interest rate hikes, okay? All that type of stuff, right? So basically, people are just freaked out about what's going to happen with the economy. And every time the Fed speaks, they just get a little more scared. Okay. I do think that some of our peak fear is probably behind us. I mean, I don't know for sure. That's my read on things. At the end of the day, we just don't know what's going to happen next. So there's still a lot of fears in the air of recession, all that type of stuff. And so, I think crypto is pretty correlated to the riskier parts of the stock market right now. All right. And I don't think crypto is just going to rocket off to infinity while we're still seeing this type of stuff, over in stock world. So the world's a volatile place right now. Of course, I'm pretty bullish on crypto over the long term. I still think we're creating technology that has an insane amount of benefits, seen insane adoption rates, fastest adopted technology, in all recorded human history, twice as fast as the internet was in the late 90s. Okay. And that as that technology adoption curve takes off, that basically the prices can accrue to the cryptocurrencies themselves because they have sound economics and you need the cryptocurrencies to use the tech in the first place. So that's my thesis about where we're headed. It can be pretty bumpy along the way. It's a bit of a random walk along the way. But that's, so it's hard to know what's happening in the short term, but I'm still pretty cautiously optimistic for the long term. Also for this year, I'm cautiously optimistic, okay? I think it could take us a few months to get out of this funk that we're in. But the likelihood, in my opinion, that we're headed just to Goblin Town that everybody has been saying since the beginning of the year, that we're just going to go to this big multi-year bear market, crypto winter, just bloodbath, everything. Just don't think it's going to happen. Not financial advice. I'm not telling you to buy or sell any crypto based on this information, but I don't think it's going to happen. So anyways, there's a lot of noise happening right now. And at the end of the day, I'm watching where the tech is headed, where the users are. That's the important part. All right, everybody. So that's all I got for today. As always, smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. There are some videos out so the more people can learn about blockchain. And if you're as fascinated with this technology as I am, you want to get your hands dirty, how can you get started today? You want to implement the exact plan that I'm talking about in this video, the 90-day plan to being a highly paid blockchain developer. Well, the starting line for that plan is getting to that point where you got everything you need to start looking for a job. So it's not just like if you know nothing, you're going to happen that 90 days. It's like you got to get to that starting point and then set a 90-day clock for yourself, okay? So how can you do that? Well, you can start off by going to my YouTube homepage. You can find my free courses there. They're like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. Take one of those, pick one, get started, have a good time while you're doing it. Coding's hard, so anything you can do to make it, more enjoyable by building something you're excited about is going to make it more worth it. And if you like those videos and you want to take the next step, or hey, maybe you want to take a master's workout entirely, I can show you become a blockchain master step-by-step to finish over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. You don't have to be an expert to get started today. I've helped people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So that's all I've got. And until next time, thanks for watching.